Hello again, rail fans. You know, I've said this on here before, but one of the things that I get out of rail fanning are all the non-railroad things that I discover along the way in my travels. The wildlife, the restaurants, the history. And I try to include one of those little aspects in all of my videos. And I think this one today is going to be no different. So let's get out there and let's go.
The signal bridge at Lakeland Junction has been here long enough for this mama osprey to stake it out for a nesting place. And we won't get any closer because she's made it pretty clear to me that she doesn't like DJI Mavic Pro drones. This morning I'm staked out for a southbound WO13. On CSX, a W prefix indicates a work train. This can be any job that's moving company materials. This morning, it's an empty rail train. Continuous welded rail is slid onto those racks in 1,440-foot lengths. To deliver it to the job site, the rail is slid out on rollers right onto the ground. There's usually a machine mid-train and one on the bottom that handles this. But there's something odd about this rail train. The southbound WO13 is empty. To my knowledge, there are no steel rail foundries in Florida. So what's this guy doing? Was he picking up from someplace where they were replacing old rail? Was CSX pulling up another line? He was headed to Winston, so that hinted at some kind of Bone Valley work, but I never heard any facts. It's possible he was running the Big Y. Back in the early 2000s, Uncle Joe Oates and I were coming back from a Folkestone weekend and chasing a rail train from Wildwood all the way down the S line to Plant City, where he took the A line connection, went back north to Lakeland, then took another left turn north on the Vita sub right past here and went straight back to Wildwood. They needed the train turned northward out there, and on the S line there's no place to do that between Wildwood and Plant City. So they ran south, ran the loop, and took it back north. I have no idea if that's what they were actually doing with this train. We were in Lakeland all weekend on personal business, so instead of driving back and forth, we stayed at the Hyatt Place Hotel at RP Funding Center, which coincidentally is exactly 2 blocks from Lakeland Connection on the A-line. Pretty convenient, huh? Next morning, Liz slept in and I was out early, 2 blocks away at South Lakeland. Once again, the parking lot of Goddard's Produce. This is a bona fide hotspot for Central Florida rail fanning. Depending on time of year, the sun angle is good for morning trains or afternoon trains. This is the much-talked-about A-Line, Atlantic Coastline, Maine, from Richmond, Virginia to Tampa, Florida. Much of Bone Valley, Rock, and all Amtraks to Tampa come right by here. Our first train of the morning was K810 coming out of Winston Yard. In the lead this morning is a mixed bag of power. 422 as a 19-year-old GE AC44 CW, followed by an EMD SD70 Mac and a GE ES44 DC. 810 is a Bone Valley train, mosaic phosphate fertilizer and jumbo-covered hoppers for Chicago. The very first challenge of this train's 1,200-mile trip is right out of the yard. At the North Y Winston begins a 2.5-mile climb. It's straight, but it's all uphill to here at South Lakeland. K810 has plenty of horsepower for the job, but I've seen a few trains that didn't, and they rolled right to a stop right here, with the option of calling for another engine or getting permission to roll back down and try it again. As I climb to about 60 feet, you can see how K810 comes off the number 2 main over to the number 1 and almost immediately diverges to the Vitus subdivision. 20 miles up this near-straight subdivision, and he'll converge to the S-Line to continue his northward trip. We checked out of the hotel and moved right around the corner from South Lakeland to the Vitus sub, Lakeland Junction, where we were with the rail train, and up came A982. I I had to look this one up because until precision scheduled railroading, there were no A-train locals south of Wildwood on the SAL or Orlando on the ACL sides. According to my friend, noted train symbol tracker Andrew Stevenson, A982 was apparently an extra or weekend run of A782, a regular Winston to Wildwood turn of rock loads, the rock presumably from South Florida. Although there appears to be two different types of rock in this train, so I can't say for sure. Coming back south to set down, the Osprey gave me another warning about coming too close to her signal, so I obeyed the stop aspect. We drove north to explore some things, and on the way I noticed Blackwater Creek. This is normally bone-dry grass bed, except down by the tree where a tiny trickling creek flows. But daily August rains have swollen the creeks and rivers here to their banks. I can see why the seaboard built this bridge so long. Our next stop was Lakeland. This is the southernmost siding on the seaboard before the connection at Owensboro, where the route takes ACL trackage to Vitus Junction. Lakeland is also the shortest siding on the Wildwood sub at 7,400 feet. I took off with the Mavic Pro, but I wish I'd known this guy was coming. Fastest lawnmower I think I've ever seen. Over there on that railroad track was Q453, miscellaneous freight for South Florida, though he's making us stop to work Winston Yard today, guessing to drop cars. The auto racks up front are for Palm Center, CSX's automobile transloading terminal for Palm Beach and Broward counties. Behind the racks was a mix of everything: empty rock hoppers, some tanks, 7 guns of large rock for riprap, small rock for Conrad Yelvington, another boxcar, more tanks, and on and on and on. After 453, we moved back south about a half a mile to Owensboro. This is the place I mentioned earlier where, after the SAL and ACL merger in 1967, the new company, SCL, consolidated part of this line, getting rid of part of the seaboard and part of the Atlantic coastline, literally turning the S line onto the ACL R line and pulling up the S line from here south to Zephyr Hills. This is what Owensboro looked like before that realignment. I am so thankful to Fred Clark Jr. for taking shots like this all over Central Florida. Making the turn from the Seaboard Airline to the Atlantic coastline is CSX train N040. Loaded coal from Oaktown, Indiana to Orlando, Florida. Power plant coal for the Stanton Energy Center. And one last bonus here, a lone DPU engine shoving on the bottom at what sounded like wide open throttle.
Well, that's it for this video. Please subscribe if you haven't already done that. Hit the like button if you liked this video, and hit the little bell down there if you want to be advised every time I put up a new video pretty quickly after it happens. And don't forget, I've got lots and lots of other videos down there that I've been putting up on this channel since 2007, so please take the opportunity to look at some of those. So until we meet again next time out there on the high iron, this is Danny Harmon.